Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just want to say thank you so much for joining us today for one of my favorite topics, how to follow these 5 steps to profitable pricing in order to earn more and work less. One of the things that I see for so many accounting professionals is that you eventually max out. When you max out on your time, well, you max out on your income also because you just have no more to give. And as a result of that, you end up with what I call an upper limit challenge. Well, we're going to go ahead and start to give you the insights as to how you can separate your fees and time in order to increase your earning potential without ending up burning out or feeling like a slave to your business. If you are an accounting professional and you feel that you have sacrificed personal time, you are taking away from time doing other things in order to work more on your business, or if you feel like a slave to your business and you've had to really give up everything else in order to be able to take care of your clients' needs and demands, or possibly you have clients who are price sensitive, they're more loyal to the low fee and budget than they are to actually your insights and your insights as to how to help them with their financials. If any of those apply to you, you are absolutely in the right place. Steve, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely, I would love to, Lauren. So my name is Steve Fogelman. As you can see by the last name, Lauren and I are related. We have been married and working together for I don't even know how many years, but it's been quite a while and it's been an amazing journey. Anyway, I'm going to be your co-host and I'll be working the chat, and I will also be launching the poll questions. And if you do have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat and I will get those questions over to Lauren. I am a therapist turned business coach and love to get started. So let's get going, Lauren.
Absolutely. A little bit about me is I'm a sports psychologist turned business coach. What I realized is that there's a lot of similarities between athletes and growth-minded accounting professionals, and there are 3 primary differences. One is we wear different uniforms than athletes do. Number 2 is we are focusing on different numbers than athletes are. And the third one is athletes right from the very beginning get some type of mentoring, coaching, training that is going to be able to help them really achieve their best performance possible as quickly as possible because they're getting those insights from somebody else. As business owners, we tend to be a little bit more fiercely independent. We like people asking us for help, but we're not always very good at asking for help ourselves. And because of that, we might achieve what it is that we want, but it might take a little bit longer because we figure it out along the way on our own instead of accessing someone that can help fast track our results. The other thing is that from 2018 to 2021, I have been listed among the top 22 business coaches by HubSpot, and that is my Amazon #1 bestseller, The Success Solution. Well, one of the things that I have seen that applies to everybody here for the most part is that our education, it gave us the skill set, the insights, and the tools to do what we do really, really well. However, our education also prepared us to be an employee instead of a business owner or an employer. Because of that, what I found is there are 3 main things I had to figure out when I first opened up my business along with Steve, is that I needed to figure out how to network, especially when I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, how to be able to enroll new clients when I don't really like the sales part too much. And then number 3 is how to be able to price my services when I didn't want to sell my time, how to be able to separate my fees from time. And that is true for the accounting professionals that I work closely with, is they're also looking to enroll new clients without being salesy and being able to separate their fees and time to increase their earning potential without being a slave to their business. What we're going to cover today is the #1 pricing solution. Boosting your profits will be the second section. And then we're going to wrap up with 5 steps to earning more. I will absolutely give you as much as I possibly can in our short time here together today. And if you're interested in learning more or how to be able to apply this to your business, then we can go ahead and talk further afterwards about what that would look like for you too.
So Lauren, what are the steps to increase income without working additional hours?
Well, this is my formula that I teach to my clients and I follow myself. It's called the Ultimate Pricing Blueprint. It actually will be a course that I'm starting this June 1st to be able to take you through these 5 steps as well. But even if you just copy these right now and follow them, you will be earning more without having to work additional hours. I'll just go through them really quickly. But the very first one is, who is your ideal client? Because it's not everyone that is breathing and with skin. You work with some people better or give some industries a better result than you do with others. And being able to start to understand that really helps you to be able to raise your value according to the eyes of your clients. And then number 2 is communicating your value, because one of the things that I see over and over again is this is really tough. You're saying a lot of the things as everybody else is saying that is doing something similar to you, and a potential client can't figure out why they ought to work with you and choose you as opposed to somebody else. So that is something that I go deeply into, is how to be able to communicate your value for people to see you as that expert and the person that has the solutions for them. And it takes you away from having to compete with everybody else, especially if you're trying to compete on price. That's not really necessary. Number 3 is packaging your services. And that is a way to be able to start bundling your services together. And by doing that, then it is also allowing you to be able to increase your profitability because your fees are no longer connected to time. Number 4, which is what we're taking a deep dive into today, is value pricing, because that is the most difficult thing for most accounting professionals, is actually how to be able to value price your services. In fact, earlier today, I was on a group coaching call with some of my clients that I work closely with, and we were having a conversation about this very thing, how to be able to charge more, but not feel like you're gouging your clients, because none of us want to do that. And we were really talking about value pricing and what that means, and being able to look at it from a different perspective in order to be able to charge higher rates. So we're definitely unpacking that today. And then number 5 is consultation mastery, because the majority of accounting professionals I know, just like me, don't really enjoy the sales part. We don't want to be salesy, and how to be able to enroll new clients that are able to see the value of what you have to offer instead of just going with you because you have low rates. So these are the 5 steps of the Ultimate Pricing Blueprint. And if you would love to be able to jump into something like that, the course will be starting June 1st, and we'll give more details later on too.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So let's go ahead and get started with the number 1 pricing solution. But before we do that, let's launch our first poll. So how do you charge your clients? Do you do hourly rate, flat fee, value pricing, or a combination? And we will let you go ahead and answer that poll question, and then I will go ahead and read the results. And this is a good time to say, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Also, that would be a good place for me to get those questions over to Lauren, and then she can go ahead and answer those questions for you today. And let's see, on our polling.
Let's just give it maybe 5 more seconds. Not everybody's voted.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and shut it down. And then I have a question afterwards, but go ahead and let's share the results, and then I'll answer the question.
So hourly rate is 0%. Wow. Flat fee is 38%, value price is 0%, and combination is 63%. So
Perfect.
That's great. Thank you very much for that.
Mm-hmm. And then Sherry was asking, what's value pricing? Basically, it's about being able to separate your fees from costs or your time, and being able to understand that value comes from your client's perspective, not yours. We're going to actually get right into it in this particular section, So great question. You lined it up really perfectly, Sherry.
So accounting professionals are really hard workers. Many of them offer an hourly rate, but let's talk about pricing.
Absolutely. Let's talk about pricing. What I have seen as far as my research goes is at least 57%, if not more, of accounting professionals, they undercharge for their services because you were never taught how to actually charge for your services. Or maybe your fees have always been connected to time or your income has always been connected to time because when you worked for somebody else, you were paid by the hour or were paid a salary, but somehow it was always connected to time. When you connect your fees to time, you are actually being seen as a commodity. And that means that clients will see your fees as a cost as opposed to investment. It actually goes ahead and minimizes your expertise, and it focuses by focusing more on the functions and the time than really your insights and your intellectual property, which is what you know or how you apply the principles to be able to get a result. It undermines that when you connect your fees to time and cost. So I just want to let you know that pricing is actually more flexible than what you think it is. You can earn more than what the average rate is by being able to separate your fees from time and cost, not focusing on the functions, but really focusing on the benefits and understanding what value really means.
Well, value is really sometimes difficult to describe, especially when it comes to pricing. How do you explain the relationship between value and price?
Well, let's talk about Starbucks for a little bit.
Let's do that.
When you want to meet someone for a business meeting and you don't have an office available, where can you go for that meeting? Well, prior to 1971, which is when Starbucks started, you could go ahead and meet somebody for lunch. You could meet somebody at an office if you had one. But if you were actually home-based at that point, or you were traveling, you didn't have that, meeting people for lunch all the time or having to rent an office just for meetings can become very expensive. And therefore, Starbucks is actually in the meeting space business. They just happen to sell expensive coffee also. They realized, though, that business owners would happily pay $5 for a cup of coffee rather than going down the street for $1 worth of coffee, because of the fact that they can use it as a workspace and a meeting space as well. It had dual purpose. They came for the meeting space and they bought a cup of coffee for while they were there, and it was a lot less expensive than, like I said, having lunch meetings all the time or having to rent an office space. So think about that, and this applies to you also. If you are looking for what is that problem that you really solve for your clients, then you want to think about what is the value of that solution that you offer. And that's how you can go from selling that $1 cup of coffee on average back in 1971 to a $5 cup of coffee. Basically, when you are thinking about value pricing as opposed to most other pricing formulas, here is the essence of it. Your client needs to believe that what they have to gain from working with you and using your services is greater than the fees you're charging them. I'll go ahead and just say that one more time. Your client needs to believe that what they have to gain from working with you is greater than your fees from working than what they're paying you. And so earlier, before we started, I was talking with Mark, who does bookkeeping for people in construction. Well, when he's able to help them with job costing and help them realize how their bidding might actually undermine their profits and how to bid appropriately so that they never end up being below profit again on a project, then they are going to earn more because of his services. And so if they're earning a higher fee than what they are paying for him, then they see the value of what it is that he's doing for them, and the insights of having that information regarding job costing. And so think about how that applies to you too. And if you wanted to put in the chat, what is the things that you do for your clients where they gain from you, and what they gain from you is more than what they're paying from you, than what they're paying you. And if you want to put that in the chat, please go ahead and share that. This is Devin, and when I first started working with her, she was not very clear about her prices. In fact, she was probably below the competitive rate for her industry. And she didn't really, she still doesn't like the sales part whatsoever. So she was really giving low fees in order to be able to make it an easy yes to enroll clients. As a result of that, she had to have a lot of clients and work a lot of hours in order to be able to meet her expenses each month. Well, this meant that late hours, away from family time, and she was exhausted. When we first started working together, we started working on value pricing, like we're talking about here, with her clients, how to be able to enroll them into packages so that her fees were no longer connected to time. And by following this particular process that I'm sharing with you today, that's right out of the Ultimate Pricing Blueprint, is she was able to actually enroll a particular client that reached out to her after COVID in about May of 2020, reached out to her, wanted her services. Because she was able to understand her value and the value from their point of view, she was actually able to enroll them into a $40,000 a year package instead of what she normally would have charged, which would have been $5,000 a year for the services. And it was because she didn't focus on her time, the reports, the functions. She focused on what the value was to the client. And they realized by having her on their team and as a resource, they had more to gain than the $40,000 that they were paying her. They were happy to pay her. And not only that, but they paid her in full before they even started working with her. So because she got that income right up front, it allowed her to take one of her part-time bookkeepers and turn that part-time bookkeeper into a full-time bookkeeper, which is something that she had been wanting to do desperately for over a year. So think about that. What would such a cash flow into your business be able to do for you also? And so it's just part of the formula of the value pricing, and it allows you to once again separate your fees and time. And as a result of that, just like with Devin, you can also earn 2 to 3 times more on a client without doing any additional work.
Well, that's great. So moving forward, we're going to be looking at boosting your profits. But before we do that, we're going to be launching our next poll, which is about pricing confidence. And let's see. Are you highly satisfied with your rates? Are you afraid to raise your rates? I get paid a little and I work a lot. So highly satisfied with my rates. I went ahead and punched
the wrong poll. Let me go ahead and end this poll.
No, aren't we on pricing? Yeah, go ahead.
Pricing confidence. Did I go into the right one?
Right one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me do it again. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so are you highly satisfied with your rates is the first one, afraid to raise my rates, or I get paid a little and I work a lot. And once again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. And Lauren, my chat's not working, so you'll have to go ahead and if you find a question, just let me know.
Okay, I absolutely will do that.
Okay.
And in about 5 seconds, we'll just end the polling.
Okay.
Okay.
And
you can go ahead and share the results.
Yeah. So highly satisfied with my rates is 33%. Wow. Afraid to raise my rates is 33%, and paid a little and work a lot is also 33%. So we're like evenly split. It really is. That's amazing. So efficient and effective, which we have here, are often paired together. How does that apply to the way that accounting professionals can price their services?
Well, as you mentioned, a lot of times efficiency and effectiveness go hand in hand. You hear them both closely linked together, but they are very, very different things. When you're reading things or studying, you're usually told to be efficient first, and then the effectiveness comes. But I learned a different lesson from working with a painter when I first started doing business coaching back in 2009. He wanted to be more efficient with his crews when they were going out and painting houses also, because that meant that he would be more profitable. And we worked on his process to improve their efficiency. And with this one particular job that they were on, the crew did great as far as efficiency. And the owner that I was working with, he was there and the owner of the house came home. And the owner of the house looked at the house, looked at him, looked back at the house with this puzzled look on his face. And this painter said, what's the matter? Don't you like the paint job that we did for you? And the owner said, yeah, it's great, except for I didn't order one. And the painter for a moment didn't really comprehend that, and then looked at his order form. They were supposed to be painting the house next door, not his house. Therefore, they were efficient because they worked really quickly, but they weren't effective because they were lacking a process in place to reduce that mistake. And therefore, they were efficient at doing something wrong. And so you can be really fast, but you could be really fast at doing something wrong in your accounting practice too. And that's why I encourage you to be more effective than efficient. And how does this relate to pricing? Well, pricing for your time is efficient for you because it's very easy to be able to lock up your hours, to be able to calculate that, get the invoice out. And that's not an efficient process for everybody, but it allows you to just quickly be able to give a way of measuring what you ought to be charging. However, it is not the most effective way to price your services because it creates what I was talking about in the very beginning, that upper limit challenge. Once you've maxed out on time, you've maxed out on your earning potential. So therefore, yes, pricing by the hour is efficient. However, it is not effective, especially when it comes to your bank account.
And let's talk about effective, taking it one step further. How does that apply when you're sharing your rates with a potential client or sending a proposal?
Well, according to my studies in neuroscience, there is something called the anchor effect when it comes to pricing. Basically, whatever number you throw out first, even if it is a random made-up number, and then you give your fees, people are going to compare your fees that you give them to that number, even if it's not even related. You could be throwing out the number on someone's football jersey and then giving your fees. And because of how our brains are wired, we're going to be naturally comparing that fee that you gave us to that number because of the fact that we have to make decisions by comparing something to something else, even if it's apples to oranges. Therefore, if you give someone a low number first, and then your fees are higher, they're going to wonder, why am I paying that much? But if you first give them a high fee, and then you give them your fee, which is lower than that first number that you put out there, then they're going to feel like they're getting a great deal working with you. And that is just something to think about when you think about the anchor effect, is whatever number you put out there first, they're going to compare it to your fees. And if that number was low and your fees are higher, it'll feel like you're charging them a lot. If that first number is high and your fees are lower than that number, then they'll feel that they're getting a great deal from working with you. Well, one of the things to recognize is your highest value from your perspective is much different from your client's perspective. What you want to do is step into their shoes and look at what your highest value is from their perspective instead of yours. It's eye-opening. Because think about it. If you're a tax professional, you might feel that your highest value is that you know all the different forms to fill out, and you can fill it out, and you get it submitted before the tax deadline. But if you're a client, your highest value as a tax professional might actually be the fact that I don't need to fill out the taxes on my own because I really don't know all the forms that are necessary. I don't want to get audited. That's probably the main thing that people see as far as the value of a tax professional is it's going to reduce my chance of getting audited. I won't end up with a surprise tax bill, hopefully, and you can lower my taxes. So those are the things from a client that they see from working with you as a tax professional, whereas you might be seeing the fact that you're just getting the taxes done and you know the forms to fill out as a thing that really is your value. So think about it from your client's perspective, because What they value about your services is probably very, very different than what you think is really important to them. One of the things to look at when you're thinking about moving this direction is, how do you boost your profits? Well, there are a couple of things that you want to consider. One is by bundling your services together, and I'll go more into that in the third section of today. Then you're starting to separate your fees and time. As I was just talking about previously regarding value, clients invest in outcomes, not time. Think about, and I would love for you to put in the chat, what is an outcome that your clients receive because of their work with you, because of the services that you provide them, because they made a decision to invest in your services. So what is an outcome that your clients experience because of them working with you? Would love to be able to hear that. The other thing to consider, and this might be counterintuitive, is the faster you solve their problem, the greater your value, because they've already been thinking about it for a long time. They've been dealing with it maybe for even longer. And at this point, when they're hiring you, they just want it to be solved. And the faster you can solve it, the better. It's similar to FedEx and Amazon Prime, proving that people will pay for speed. With FedEx, you know that if you want to overnight a package, you're going to probably pay 3 to 4 times more than if you go FedEx ground. With Amazon Prime, you're going to be paying a monthly subscription in order to have access to their priority or premium deliveries and be able to get it faster than most other people would. So think about that. Joanne was saying that some of the benefits of working with her is stress-free tax time, knowing who owes them money and who they owe money to. So that is really great if you're able to actually connect your benefits to a particular money outcome or a time outcome. It actually raises your value. And it's possible to do that whether you are in a B2B service or if you have a softer service, and that's good for you to know with your clients, where maybe they're selling something that is more health related or outcome driven, but it's not necessarily tied to a business.
So Lauren, what you shared really goes into the mindset about pricing and also buying decisions. Many of our clients want to earn more, but they're really unsure how to start. What do you recommend to start separating their fees from time and to transition to value pricing?
Well, this is my 5 steps to get started with value pricing. I went ahead and put a link to the resource in the chat as well, if you want to be able to follow along with this and be able to even do it more on your own time. But basically, I talk about doing good, better, and best rates. It's not actually value pricing per se. It's more like the training wheels on a bicycle. And you start with training wheels before you take the training wheels off. This is a first initial step towards value pricing and separating your fees from costs and time in order to recognize that people will pay more than what you think the going rate is and what the market will bear. Basically, what you want to do is have what I call your good, better, and best rate. With the good, you have someone coming to you that wants to work with you. Go ahead and calculate what the price would normally be, whether you are multiplying your time by your hourly rate or you're adding in some profit margin, but come up with what that rate would normally be for that particular service that they want to hire you for. And then what you want to do is multiply it by 1.5. This will start to separate your fees on time, and this will be your new good rate. What I want you to do now that you have your new good rate is enroll 3 new clients at that good rate. So once again, someone comes to you, you're going to go ahead and calculate what that regular price would have been. You multiply it by 1.5. You enroll 3 new people at that 1.5 good rate. After you've done that, you have some insights that actually people will pay more than what you were charging before. You're starting to earn a little bit more for your services, and you're not doing any additional work for them. So now after you enroll those 3 people, we're moving on to the better part of the value pricing. And once again, someone's going to come to you, you do your calculations of what you normally would have charged them, you multiply it now by 2. and you go ahead and enroll 3 new clients at this better rate. This gives you greater confidence that you can separate your fees and time. You're starting to get more insights as to how to have those initial consultations with potential new clients, because you're understanding the questions that they're asking that you want to be answering when you meet with them to show the value of your services. And now you're earning double the income without doing any additional work, because you're focusing on the value as opposed to time and cost. Once again, you've enrolled 3 new clients at this better rate. And the next one is your best rate. This is where it's what I call the gulp factor. You have to take a gulp of air before you blurt out your new prices. And because of that, it takes courage, not confidence. The confidence comes later. But once again, because you've already gone through the stepping stones of the good, the better, and now you're on to the best rate, you have someone come to you, you go ahead and do your calculations, what it normally would have been to work with you. You multiply that by 3x now, and you give those 3x rates. You enroll 3 new people. And at this point, you're now making triple what you would have originally earned. And it's because you now understand the value from the client's point of view. You're having a better conversation, and you have gained confidence along the way that people are hiring you for your expertise. And you're working with a better level of client than you originally were when you didn't start moving forward on this journey. But what's going to happen eventually is you've been at your best rates for a while, and you might want to recalibrate. So eventually your best rates will become your good rate, and you will go through this process all over again. So this is how to start to move away from how you're traditionally pricing your services into value pricing. When I first met Susan, she absolutely undercharged for her services. She felt very intimidated just having enrolling conversations with people because she wanted them to like her. She didn't want to be judged negatively. She doesn't like hearing the word no. And she thought that she needed to work with everyone because of the fact that her rates were pretty low. She needed to have capacity. As a result of that, she was working probably 7 days a week on her clients' books, and she was working about 70 hours a week also. She was burned out by the time we met, and she knew that things had to change. She just couldn't sustain it at this level any longer. So what we did is we once again went through this process, which is right out of the Profitable Bootcamp. Out of the Ultimate Pricing Bootcamp. And what happened is that she actually kept everything on an Excel spreadsheet and shared a little bit with me. But basically what she did is she was starting to separate her fees and time. She was focusing on the value. She was following the model that I'm talking about right here. And I want to bring your attention to cleanup number 1. When that new client approached her, she said she would have charged $1,500 for this particular cleanup because she would have calculated it by her hourly rate. But because we were able to talk about it ahead of time, and I was able to help her see the value from the client's perspective, I instructed her on what questions to be asking and how to be able to enroll them into working with her to do that cleanup project. We agreed that the value of the cleanup project was $7,900. No additional work. We were just looking at the value from her client's perspective instead of from her perspective. She followed the steps that I shared with you just now of asking the questions and knowing how to enroll them. They said yes. So that means that she made an additional $6,400 revenue on that particular project. But the other thing is that she also got paid for it in full before she even started to do the work. This was very eye-opening for her, that she can do this, that it actually does work. It is possible. Even though she lacked the confidence to do it, she had the courage to try something differently because she couldn't continue working in the way that she was any longer. As a result of that, she actually let go of some of her non-ideal clients over the year that we had been working together. She was able to bring in an additional $56,000 in revenue. And she also cut back the hours from, like I said, she was working 7 days a week at 70 plus hours. She was now working 3 days a week, about 20 hours a week. She felt a little bit guilty about it because she was actually working so much less, and she still didn't have to take a cut in her income or her revenues. It stayed the same, and as you can see, it actually grew a little bit. So think about what that would do for you if you were able to increase your revenues and actually reduce the amount of time, got back some of your personal time because you were focusing on the value and you had high value clients.
So Lauren, before we get into the final section where you discuss the value pricing even further, I've been getting some private messages about how to implement value pricing. And I know that we have a great resource. And if you go to businesssuccesssolution.com/package, you will actually find that resource. And
Excellent.
Lauren, just went ahead and put that into the chat. So you'll find the information right there. And we're going to move on to our next and final section.
Perfect. And if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. I want to make sure that I can answer them for you.
Absolutely. So the next thing that we're going to look at is 5 steps to earn more. But before we do that, we're going to go into our last poll question. Do you have an ideal client? I work with everyone. I serve several industries. I've defined my niche. So if you can go ahead and launch that, Lauren. And I don't know if you have any questions in the chat. I do have one that came up if we don't have one in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead and share what came to you privately.
So somebody was asking me, who do you start with first? Do you start with new clients or do you start with current clients?
When you start moving in this direction, you can actually start either way with your new clients or your current clients. I would say about 80% of my clients start with new clients first because they don't know how you've been pricing your services up until now. They are just meeting you for the first time possibly. And so this is new for them. And it's easier to enroll a new client into the value pricing than it is to change older clients. But some of my clients, they want to start with their older clients first. They actually can do that. The process is a little bit differently because, as you know, people don't like change and they might have some different questions as to why are you changing my rates or why are you doing this now? And therefore the process has a little bit of a different tweak to it, but you can do either one first. It's really about which is more important to you. But I would say 80% of my clients start with new clients because it's much easier. They don't have any history of how you've been pricing your services. And that's what I would recommend also. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling.
Okay, so we have, actually we ended up with two of the same questions. So I work with everyone is 29%. I've defined my niche is 43%, and we must have left out, I serve several industries. So we apologize for that. But yeah, let's move on from there. So Lauren, how do accounting professionals earn more without working additional hours? I know that that's what everybody wants to hear.
Well, I'm going to go through the 5-step process right here. And what I would say is the very first step, and this comes out of the Ultimate Pricing Bootcamp, these 5 steps I'm going through. But the very first one is to, once again, step into your client's shoes, understand what their hurdles are. There are going to be 3 different types of challenges that they're having. They're going to be primary, secondary, and hidden challenges. The primary challenges are the obvious ones. Maybe their business isn't as profitable as it could be. It could be that they don't understand why their P&L sheet shows that they're making a profit, but when they look at their bank account, they're having trouble just making payroll every time. They're not really understanding their finances. So that is going to be the most obvious, is that primary challenge that they're facing. Now, one of the things to realize is that that challenge, or that primary challenge, actually has a secondary hidden challenge to it. Because they are having some problems with their financials, it also is affecting their business and their business operations. It could be that they would love to bring on an additional employee, but they don't have enough cash flow to be able to do that right now. Maybe they want to be able to aggressively grow their business over the next year. However, they don't know which is the best route to take, whether they should invest in this very, very expensive machinery for their business, or they ought to be doing something else and investing in a different way, maybe a consultant or something like that. The other thing is possibly that they haven't taken a vacation for 3 years and they really, really want to take a vacation, but they feel like they can't step away from their business because it would reduce their income and that they just can't afford to have that happen. So think about what is that secondary hurdle that your client faces when they're working with you. You have your primary one now, which is the obvious. The second one is what else is going on because of those things that are happening in their business. And the third one is the hidden challenges. The hidden challenges are what are the problems that they will continue to be tolerating because they decide not to invest in your services. And I would love for you to put in the chat, what are some of the challenges that your clients face when they first reach out to you that you're aware of, whether it's the primary ones, the obvious ones, the secondary ones that they have happened because they're not so familiar with their cash flow or there's other things going on in their business. And what are the hidden ones? What is the cost of them not working with you? So it could be that they are continuing to work too many hours and sacrificing other parts of their life. It could be that they have high employee turnover because they can't pay their employees a higher wage and they're like at the very low part of the competitive wage, or that they maybe can't give their employees other benefits. Maybe it could be that because they're working so many hours, they never get to put aside enough for their own retirement later on. And so think about what are those things that they would continue to struggle with if they didn't start working with you. Lane says that some of the challenges are stress and anxiety because they don't know how much they'll owe in taxes and not sure if they're doing things correctly. Thanks so much for sharing that, Lane. And if anybody else want to go ahead and share the challenges that their clients have when they first come to you, would love to be able to hear that. The other thing to look at is the pricing part and looking at how an airline prices for someone flying with them and how you can do this too. So you know, and I know that airlines.
Last minute.
Yeah, go ahead. That you know, and I know that not everybody that's on a plane paid the same fee, even if they're all in coach. You might be sitting next to somebody that paid 2 or 3 times more, or maybe they paid a fraction of what you paid, even though you might be sitting next to each other. And that's because airlines do surge pricing. They are looking at being able to get the highest price per seat that they possibly can to maximize the profits on any one flight. So think about that for you. How is maybe timing something that you can look at in your services? It could be timing from they want a faster result than average because they have some type of urgency, and how can you adjust your fees for that? Or it could be that they are coming up to some type of deadline, like the tax deadline, they haven't done anything, and now all of a sudden they have really this imperative to be able to pay attention to something that they've been procrastinating on. So think about how you can go ahead and adjust your fees according to time, whether they want a fast turnaround or whether they are looking for faster access and response for you. Those are 2 things that you can look at when it comes to time. But also, once again, realize that just like with airlines having surge pricing, you can have surge pricing too. The other part of surge pricing is capacity. When airlines realize that most of their seats are filled, their prices go up per seat. And think about that. When you are almost at capacity, you could go ahead and bump up your rates in order to be able to recognize that there's only so much time available, people want to work with you, and that the people that really see the value of you, of working with you, are the ones that will go ahead and enroll. So think about those 2 things as far as surge pricing is time and response time from your client's point of view. And from your point of view, you want to look at surge pricing where when you're almost at capacity, it might be time for you to really bump up your rates also. The other thing that you want to look at when you're starting to separate your fees and time is just set some time aside to be able to open up a journal or open up an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet on listing your various services. Go ahead and list all your services. These are the ones that you are being paid for. And maybe there are some services that you do for free because you just don't know how to charge for them. Just go ahead and list them all out. And that is one of the steps that allows you to start packaging your services and separating your fees from time. And then the next thing to look at is outcomes and benefits. When you're doing this, you want to ask yourself a couple of questions to be able to start to put yourself in your client's shoes and look at things from their perspective instead of yours. Think about, who is it for? Who is that high value client that you would love to be working with? And why would that person choose you? Because so often we think about who our dream client might be, and we think about why we want them working with us, but we never look at things from their perspective. What would they need to be having, or what type of conversation would they need to be having with you, or what kind of relationship do they need to have with you, where they would choose you over somebody else? So think about that high value client. Who is that? And once again, why would they choose you? Looking at that from their perspective instead of yours. And then number two, as I've been talking about over the course of this training, is what specific problem do you solve for your client? As I mentioned before in the beginning, with your ideal client, they have three different types of challenges. They have the obvious ones, they have the hidden ones, and they have the secondary ones. So there's those primary challenges, the secondary challenges, and then the hidden challenges. And think about what are some of those problems that they have. And that starts to give you some insights as to how to start having conversations so that they know whether they ought to be choosing you instead of somebody else. And then the third thing is thinking about what's possible for them once you've solved that problem and they're no longer having to tolerate it. They have this taken care of because they know that you're on board and you're taking care of this for them. And what are they able to focus on now because of that? And so once again, I want to just talk about the conversation with my clients during our group coaching call this morning, where this came up in conversation. One of my clients, he was talking with someone who was thinking about working with him, but she was saying, oh, I can just do the books myself and I just rather you review them. And part of the way that he was able to have the value of her, of seeing how he could help her and that it would be beneficial for him to do the bookkeeping instead of her, is to help her see what the value of her time was, how much time would take her to do her own books, even if he reviewed them. And if she was able to free up that much time, how she would be able to use it to actually focus on bringing in more business into her business and what that would mean in increased revenues over the course of time. So once again, he was able to transition the conversation away from just the fees or her seeing it as a cost to her being able to understand the value of working with him. And by him doing the books, she would be able to work on her own business development and be able to improve her own cash flow, which was greater than if she saved some money by not having him do it every month. And so think about that for you too. What's possible once that problem is solved for them?
So Lauren, if accounting professionals are ready to separate their fees from time, how do the packages work?
Well, this is right out of module 3 of the Ultimate Pricing Bootcamp. And I encourage you to have 3 different types of packages because, as I mentioned earlier, people need to compare things when they're making a decision to work with you. If you offer them only one option of how to work with you, they'll then be thinking about, do I want to work with you? Or do I want to do something else? Like maybe do it myself, have somebody else do it. Maybe just ignore it for as long as I could possibly ignore it for. But they will be thinking about whether to work with you or whether to go down some other route. Instead, when you offer packages, you're giving them 3 options of how to work with you. And now it changed the conversation in their head from if I ought to work with you or do something else to how can I work with you? And with the 3 options, the silver is for the price sensitive clients that see the value of working with you, but maybe they don't need your full services or they're just getting started and they don't have the income to really invest in a high level of service, but they really want to be able to work with you. And so that has the basic services, just the necessities. The gold package is going to be for the majority of your clients. And this is really going to be the things that the majority of your clients need. And these are the ones who already have cash flow. They see the value of working with you, and they are ready to really get it off their plate or get the accurate information because it's really important to them. And then the diamond package is for people that want a premium service. Maybe they're the ones that want to have that immediate response time to you. Maybe they want to be prioritized as far as always their needs are being put before everybody else's, and they're willing to pay for that access and that speed of results. Maybe they want to have additional advisory services because they're looking for rapid growth over the next year and want to make sure that they're making the best decisions possible in their business. So that is the diamond package. But when you offer these 3 different packages, is tiered services where everything from the silver rolls into the gold, everything from the gold rolls into the diamond. And that way you're able to give clients options, and they can choose which one is really best for their needs. And every now and then you will be surprised. You'll think that someone's going to choose one package and they actually might choose up higher than what you thought that they would because they see the value of working more closely with you.
So what results did Justin get?
Justin, in his accounting practice, was originally working with everybody, and his clients were primarily regional. He lives in a small rural town. He didn't think that they can pay more than what the average prices were for tax services in his town. And because of that, he was working a lot of hours, especially during tax season. It was burning him out. It was taking time away from his family and his 2 little kids and wife. And so we started to once again do just what I was sharing with you with creating the packages, focusing on his ideal client. And by doing that, he decided that he wanted to specialize in people in the cannabis industry. And this was maybe about 5 years ago, because it was a brand new market in the region that he lived in Oregon. It was just getting started. It was very, very messy. And he really wanted to be the front runner on that. He saw an opportunity. Because of that, those clients, a lot of them, maybe they've been working in the cannabis industry before it was legal, and now they had to figure out how to have a legal business when they were off the grid before. There's complexities with the cannabis industry where it is primarily a cash-only business, how to be able to do that when there's other things that you have to do, like pay your payroll taxes on time, and so on and so forth, but you couldn't have a traditional checking account. So he was able to help them with those things, to be able to turn their business into a legal, profitable business. And as a result of that, he was able to charge a premium price because of the fact that he was very, very niched and specialized. And as a result of going down this path, he was actually able to pay off his debt in 4 months instead of 5 years. Plus, he actually bought the building that his offices were in within the first 8 months of us working together. So it once again turned around how his workflow was. He worked with a higher value client because he was able to bring in more income, but not have as many clients. It gave him back a lot of his personal time with his family. And that was actually more important to him than anything else.
So what we covered today which was great, by the way, has been the #1 pricing solution, how to boost your profits, and then 5 steps to earn more. And I know that you really shared quite a bit, Lauren, and now that they can get started. But I think that there are some that are ready to get this done, and they really don't want to figure this out on their own. What do you recommend for our listeners who are ready to raise their rates without losing clients?
Well, if this is something that interests you, whether you want to talk about your business and how to be able to get these things really dialed in quickly for you because you want to be able to earn more without feeling like a slave to your business, or you're interested in the ultimate pricing blueprint that I'm offering starting June 1st, then I suggest you go ahead and click the link that I put in the chat, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, where we can talk about how this would apply to your business. And if you're interested in the ultimate pricing blueprint, we can talk about how to be able to enroll with that. I set aside 4 slots for that conversation. And because we're focusing on a dedicated conversation with your business, it actually has a $500 value, but it's something that I'm offering here complimentary. And Steve, anything else on your end?
No, I think I'm good. You just covered lots and lots of information. So yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I appreciate you taking time from working in your business to be joining us here, getting some of this advanced knowledge, some of these insights. If you just take away one thing that you can implement, that is going to start to make a difference, being able to grow your bank account without having to attach your fee to time. It starts to solve the upper limit problem that I was talking about. And if you'd like to talk further, let's go ahead and set up that conversation, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk. Thank you so much. Lauren Fogelman, where we're showing accounting professionals how to double your income.
Working half the time.
Take care.